And are you refreshed? Good. Now what? It's not just the desire that you have, but it's your readiness to hear and play with us and take it a little further forward. We will discuss what's on your mind even if you don't come to the hot seat.
Love you. I would have probably created a whole scenario of what was going to be done to me by chopping those trees down. Like, my imagination in a good form takes me to great places. My imagination when I'm in pain, when I'm having fear, creates more.
Well, that's logical, isn't it? That law of attraction gets hold of it and it becomes more. But before you go further, we want to contemplate something with you. Do you think that consideration of things is a helpful thing?
Yes.
So you are in agreement that step one matters and that it requires contrast and differences and choices and thinking about things. So we're not at all wanting to talk you out of your step one moments where you're considering and actually creating. We just want you to realize that there's a point at which thinking about it is no longer helpful. So even in the step one part of the equation, you can be in alignment. You can be in the receiving mode. And that's what we've begun calling step 5, if you've been listening to us for a while. Step 1 is the contrast causes you to launch rockets of desire. Consideration, deciphering, stewing, chewing it over. Step 2 is source responds, and the vortex is created, and the vibrational version of it happens. Step 3 is you get into that satisfying receptive mode where ideas flow to you. Step 4 is you're really good at that. That's all step 4 is. You're really good at that.
And I think I've actually felt that.
And then step 5 is when you're back in the consideration mode and not beating up on yourself.
Yes. I also almost feel like within the pain and fear part that I feel excited that something new is coming. Because I have now noticed that through going through that process without getting too crazy about it, new things come out of
always
that process.
Always.
And so that I have at least made that far.
So what's on your mind?
Something about my understanding of, usually when I'm up here, I've been up here a few times, and it seems very painful to be in pain. Fear and pain to me is a pretty crippling thing, and yet I also noticed
But do you know why that comes? Because somebody's trying to get to the bottom of something.
Yes, yeah.
In other words, if you don't stew on it, if you don't brood over it, if you don't get all defensive, sometimes you'll have a discussion or something with someone, and it won't go the way you ultimately want it to go. Maybe you behave in a way that you're not happy about later. Well, thinking about it and regretting it and brooding over it or being defensive about it, that just holds you in a resistant mode. But if you accept that conversation, painful as it was still valuable because it was a step 1 moment, and so clarity did come out of it, and while your inner being so far is the only one that's got the clarity, it's lining it up for you to receive it too. So after a little while, you just start realizing there's nothing serious going on. You all beat up on yourselves so easily and so unnecessarily.
Absolutely. Yes, it's true.
So you want to get to the bottom of why that is? No!
I sometimes wonder, though, and I've heard you say it in the past, something about feeling, I also feel great joy at times, great, beautiful, wonderful joy about life. And that is the new contrast that I come from, when I'm, so
Well, we know that. We've been watching a lot of you, and the more understanding you get about this deliberate creative process, and the more you allow your desires to evolve and get bigger. A big desire, when you're focused in opposition to it, is strong negative emotion. And there are some things that just matter a whole lot more than others. So when you feel strong negative emotion, just say to yourself, I must really care about this. And I must be really brooding about it in an unproductive way. And I must be far away from the perception or the perspective that my inner being holds about it. And just do your best to talk yourself off the ledge. So let's couple, because we like the emphasis on the word satisfied. Now we want to put emphasis on another word, soothing, because you are all capable of more self-soothing than you actually apply. You're too quick to be mad at yourself. So if you just decide that you want to soothe yourself, and why? Because I want to be in the receptive mode, and what does that mean? I want to be satisfied, so what? I want to soothe myself into satisfaction, so how's that easiest? To think about the subject, to brood about the subject, or to let it go. So maybe this is a good time for meditation, or a good time for a distraction, or something like that.
I have a great distraction story. It's a very short one. I was in a bad state, and I was needing to...
Because you were trying too hard?
I was trying too hard. I was just in a bad mood, and I was trying to get over it. I was trying to let it go a little bit. At the same time, I'm also trying to...
At the same time, you're trying to get it to the bottom of it.
Well, yes. Probably.
Yeah. That's what we mean by stewing on something.
Yeah.
Stewing on it, trying to establish your position in a stronger way, or trying to explain. We want to hear your story, but we want to go back to the story about Esther. She so wanted that man to understand she did not mean to do that. That was the part that bothered her the most, that anyone would think that she would just ruthlessly chop down trees to selfishly get her view. She doesn't do it that way. She sends lightning strikes and things of that
nature. It's just a distraction story. I was planning a birthday at the same time. I was writing myself a little email to remember to buy balloons. And I could use an emoji to put it offered me an emoji to put a red balloon to remind myself balloons. I thought, well, I'm sending myself a note to send an emoji of a balloon to myself. And it was just a passing thought, like a really short passing thought. Went and laid down outside, looking up at the sky, and I saw this bird flying over the sky, and just way up there. And then there was a red balloon that flew across the sky, and it just like my heart opened, and I went, oh, it's, sometimes it comes.
Need a reminder?
Needed a reminder that it was a red balloon way up there in the sky. So I just thank you. I love this morning's story.
It's nice to know that not only does your inner being know where you are in relationship to everything, no matter how grand or small it seems. Your inner being is aware of you and not just interested in showing you what to do, but so satisfied and so enjoying the experience of co-creating with you. So it's this partnership where you explore and prod and give birth to things you're not ready for, and then your inner being nurtures and gestates and gathers cooperative components while you sometimes chew longer and add more to it. But then when there is this conscious awareness that you've created it and that it's ready for you whenever you're ready for it, and then you stand in more often readiness. That's really what we're wanting to talk about here. You care more about deliberately creating an atmosphere around yourself, a vibrational atmosphere that is conducive to seeing the red balloon go by. That was your inner being absolutely giving you an impulse to go outside and kick back for a minute. And if you had not followed that impulse, you would have not have seen the balloon. And the balloon message was such a clear message that we are always offering you ideas and impulses about the next path of least resistance. It's always happening. And so as you have experiences like that, really satisfying experiences, you would think that they would carry you through the not so satisfying experiences. You would think that law of attraction would give you, what is it on the millionaire game? You could phone home or call a friend, or there'd be some reprieve from when you get really stuck. But there isn't, because law of attraction is always, always, always consistent. And so the emphasis that we're wanting, especially this body of evolved leaders and understanders of deliberate creation, the emphasis that we want you to take away from this gathering is, my work now, my emphasis now, the thing that I most want to be aware of is, am I right now preparing an atmosphere that is receptive in nature? And you know whether you are or aren't by how you feel. And if you can say, I must be, because this is a really satisfying moment. I must be, because this is a really satisfying moment. Then what happens is those satisfying moments become more and more frequent until they are more and more dominant. And then people who are watching you think that you have some magic wand because things are always working out for you in such remarkable ways. It's almost jaw-dropping. Jerry and Esther used to say to each other, and Esther says it to a lot of friends now, I'm so glad we were here together because no one would have believed that. Well, whether they saw it or believed it or not, they wouldn't have had the understanding of knowing how significant it was, because that's the relationship you have between you and your inner being. So as that is the relationship that you are fostering all the time, so that you and your inner being have this relationship where you know the meaning of what they're guiding you to, because you see, your inner being always gets you. That's the thing that we really want to emphasize, the thing that trips almost all of you up. The thing that you're looking for the most is wanting or needing validation from some other. And when you're looking for it in other humans, you're looking for that love in all the wrong places, because they might be tuned in and tapped in and turned on, and they might not. And if they aren't when you look, if they aren't when you ask, then you develop these patterns of disappointment that there must not be something positive to be seen because they didn't see it. But you can't blame the fact that they didn't see it, because you can't control the mood that they were in. So if you're asking someone to see something that they're not in the vibrational vicinity of, they're not going to see it, where your inner being always sees it. Your inner being will always give you that validation. So if you want to feel heard, and we know you do, we hear so much explaining and rationalizing and justifying you do to one another. You so want to be understood. Esther rehearsed a spiel to a man that she never actually rendezvoused with. It was so good she should write a book about what to say when you think you're in trouble. So your inner being is always, 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 always ready to float a balloon past. Always ready. You just got to be laying out there and looking up. You got to be in that satisfied place. Really, really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.